Hi, I'm Polly, welcome to Because Hobby. Today we're going to be using the Warhammer 40,000 Paints and Tools set to paint up a Hive Fleet Behemoth Termagant. So he's been undercoated in Chaos Black Prime Spray. We're going to be using a really simple 6-colour paint scheme. You can obviously expand upon this, but it's just a really simple scheme that I think works quite well. So to start off, we're going to be using some Abaddon Black, some Macragge Blue, Mephiston Red, Bugman's Glow, Avalanche Sunset, and then some Agrax Earthshade. And we're just using the little starter paintbrush that you get with the set. Right, let's get painting. Right, so to start off, we're going to be going in with the Mephiston Red. And we're going to give it a good shake and put a little bit on the palette. So with the Mephiston Red, we're just going to paint all his flesh areas, so all his bits of skin. So just his legs and his head that's underneath his shell. So we're just getting a nice healthy amount on the palette. Now we are going to thin this down because we are going to have to do a couple of coats. And thinning it down is always better than just putting it on as is straight from the pot. Get it to a nice consistency. Just make sure you really mix your paint in well when you're mixing water to it. It's because you don't want some places to be a bit more watery than others, because that can then affect when you're painting on the model. So just taking a nice amount of red on the brush, and we're just going to slop it on all over the model where his skin is. So all down his tail, on his legs, on his arms and onto his gun. It doesn't really matter if you get any red on his carapace, because we're going to be painting the carapace black after we've done this step. So we're just going to get it all over, get it nice and coated. And I think this took me about 3 coats to get a nice flat consistent layer that I was happy with. So just keep going, paint it up, let it dry, do another layer if you need to. So I'm going to finish up here and I'll bring you back when I'm done. Right, so here he is, he's got all his flesh bits painted red. I think that's looking quite nice. So we're going to go in with the Abaddon Black now, and we're just going to paint his carapace or his shell. Now it is already black, but like I said in the previous clip, you may have got a little bit of red on it, you just want to cover up. You don't need to put that much paint on the palette, just enough to coat the shell. I believe I did 2 coats, I think, to get a nice flat layer, and it helps because you're already painting onto black. So we're going to be quite careful where we put our black. If we do get any onto the red, that doesn't really matter, we can go back over with our red and cover those bits up. But we're just going to get a nice consistent flat layer, and that's going to give us a really nice standing to put our blue onto later on. So we're just going to cover up every bit of shell or carapace he has. So he's on his back, on his head, on his legs, and there's also a little bit on his gun as well. So like I said, I think it took me about 2 coats to do this step. Just painting, letting it dry, doing another coat. So I'll bring you back when it's all dry. So here he is, he's got all his black all dry. It's looking pretty snazzy. So we're going to go in with the Bugman's Glow now, and we're just going to take it straight from the pot. We're just going to do it on the sort of exposed areas of flesh he's got. If you watched the previous video, I talked about it there too. There's these little kind of gashes where you can see the muscle underneath his skin. So we're just painting those up. There's a couple on the gun, there's a few on his arms, one on his tail I think maybe, and on his legs. So just, they're quite obvious if you're looking at your model. So yeah, if you just find all those and just give them a very gentle little brush over. They are sort of bumpy, so you don't really have to put much paint on them. It kind of picks it up quite nicely. But this is just adding a slightly different tone of reddy pink to the underskin, the under muscle, I guess, of the Tyranid. So I'll bring you back when these little bits are done. Right, so we've got all those little bits of muscle painted up. It just adds a slight little bit of definition. It looks quite nice, I think. So now we're going to go in with the Macragge Blue. And we're going to take a decent amount, I'd say. Not loads again, but enough to sort of paint most of his carapace, and we're going to thin it down quite heavily because we're going to paint it on in multiple layers. So we want it nice and thin so you can sort of build up the depth of colour. So here we go, I'm just thinning it down. And again, just make sure it's really nicely mixed in. And what we're going to do with this, we're just going to get a little bit on a brush and we're just going to stroke the very edges of the carapace. We're just going to paint it one stroke at a time, going across his shell from the sort of the end of each shell fragment, section, up until about halfway. And we're just going to go, well, repeat that for each section of his shell. So down his back, on his legs and head. And what we're going to do, we're going to let that dry and then we're going to do it again. And that will build up the depth of colour, because as we thin down this paint, once it dries, it's going to go a little transparent. So to add an extra sort of extra blue to it, we have to then do it again. And I did talk about this technique in my last painting Tyranids video as well. I went into a little bit more detail explaining it, so if you want to pop back and watch that for a little bit more clarification, you're more than welcome. But I'll finish putting the blue on him and I'll bring you back. Right, so here he is. We've got the blue finished, and as you can see, I think it's about 70%, maybe 80% of his shell painted blue. So we're going to do his eyes now, and we're going to paint them Avalanche Sunset. So we're just pointing our brush, making sure there's a nice little tip on it, and we're taking it straight from the pot. And we just come straight from the side and just one dot. If you do mess up, you can actually go and take your red and sort of go back, just swoop underneath the eye with your red, and that'll sort of clean it up a little bit. Right, so here he is. He's almost done. There's only a few more steps left. We're going to give him a really nice healthy wash with our Agrax Earthshade. So again, we're just going to dip it straight in the pot, get a nice load on your brush and just whack it on the model. Slop it all over as much as you can. Do pay close attention and make sure that the wash isn't pooling on his like flat areas, so like the big pieces of his shell along his tail, because then it can sort of dry a little patchy. But if you see this, it's really easy to remedy. You just sort of get your brush and sort of tidy it up, just sort of swoop it away. He might take a little while to dry once you're done, but just let him dry fully. Make sure he's really nice and dry, not sticky at all. Make sure all the areas are nice and free of pooling of the wash, and then I'll show you what to do next. So here he is, our wash is completely dry. I think he's looking quite good, but he's a little bit dark. All the colours have sort of been muted down a bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back in with our blue, and we're just going to highlight the bits of his carapace. We just want to bring out make him a little bit brighter. So we're going to go just along the edge of each bit of his shell like we were before, and we're going to go straight up the middle of the carapace. There's that sort of ridge. So we're going to highlight that bit too. Now you can do this as much or as little as you like. You might like it quite dark and toned down, or you might like it really bright and vivid. That's completely up to you. If you wanted to, you could also mix in a little white with your blue to really make it pop more, but I wanted to stick with the colours that I sort of had in the kit. I didn't really want to go around mixing the colours because I know some people aren't really comfortable with that. We're just making sure our brush is nice and pointed so we get a nice crisp line. So we're going over all the bits of carapace, going over his head now, just making sure they're nice and high lit, bringing back some life to that blue colour. So I'll get these blue highlights finished and I'll bring you back when that's done. Right, so here we go. He's been painted up blue again, and I think he's looking alright. So we're going to go in with Bugman's Glow again now, and we're just going to go over again, just as we did before, just the little areas of the exposed muscle. So we just want them to pop against the red. Really quickly, just one little line, just over the raised little bumps on the muscle, and that sort of brings that back to life. And with that, there he is, he's done. Now like I said, you're more than welcome to sort of add in another type of blue, mix it up a little bit, put some white in the blue, make it brighter, make it lighter. But I wanted to stick with the colours in the kit. Now, truthfully, I'm not a huge fan of Hive Fleet Behemoth. I think they look a bit like Alien and Spider-Man had a baby in the worst way possible. But you know, if you like it, more power to you. Just for me, it's not my favourite scheme. I think these paints worked alright. I think maybe if I'd had a different type of red and a different type of blue, I could have done a slightly better job. But like I said, I wanted to keep with the colours that were provided in the kit. But yeah, it's been a really quick video today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. To our 6 subscribers now, I cannot believe that we've got 6 subscribers. That's amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. To everyone that's liking the videos and watching them, you're all amazing. I think we've got some Soul Wars planned for the future, so that's exciting. I'm not sure what Sean's got in the pipeline, but I know that that's something quite good too is coming up from him. So yeah, just thanks for watching through to the end. I hope you enjoyed this quick little paint scheme. Let me know in the comments if you want to see any more of this sort of painting Tyranids setup. I don't know if there's many more I could do with the kit, but I have other paints, so if you guys really want to see them, I'm more than happy to continue doing them. Yeah, let us know in the comments if you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you fancy. You can go and follow us over on Instagram. So yeah, just thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep painting.